Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
Arthur Cecil Pigou's The Theory of Unemployment, published in 1936, represents a pivotal, yet often overshadowed, contribution to economic thought, endeavouring to grapple with the persistent unemployment that shadowed the Great Depression. Pigou's work sought to reconcile the seemingly intractable reality of mass unemployment with the prevailing classical economic framework, a framework predicated on the inherent self-correcting mechanisms of markets. The central problem the theory of unemployment addressed involved explaining why, according to classical theory, the labour market had failed to clear, leaving millions jobless despite the presumed forces of supply and demand. At its core, Pigou's analysis posits that unemployment derives primarily from wage rigidities. These rigidities, he argued, prevent wages from adjusting downward to a level where the demand for labour would equal its supply. In essence, unemployment emerges as a consequence of wages remaining artificially elevated above their market-clearing level. This perspective aligns with the classical belief in the efficiency of markets when unfettered by interventions or rigidities. Pigou delineated between what he termed voluntary and involuntary unemployment. He categorized a significant portion of observed unemployment as voluntary, meaning that individuals were choosing unemployment over accepting wages lower than their reservation wage. Even when jobs existed, workers declined employment at the offered wage rate due to personal valuations of leisure or perceived opportunity costs. This characterization, heavily debated, hinges upon the assumption that individuals make rational calculations regarding the trade-offs between work and leisure. Pigou suggested government intervention to reduce unemployment without disrupting the market's fundamental operations, specifically through wage subsidies. These subsidies would effectively lower the cost of labour to employers, incentivizing them to hire more workers, while allowing employees to receive a wage closer to their desired level. This approach, Pigou contended, would mitigate the wage rigidity problem while preserving market efficiency. Pigou's theoretical framework fundamentally builds upon classical economic models, directly employing supply and demand analysis within the labour market. He explores factors that influence the supply of labour, such as population size, labour force participation rates, and worker preferences. He also examines determinants of the demand for labour, including technological advancements, capital investment, and consumer demand for goods and services. Pigou's analysis, while rooted in classical principles, acknowledges the complexities of the real-world labour market, considering factors beyond simple supply and demand equations. Alfred Marshall's principles of economics exerted a profound influence on Pigou's work, notably Marshall's emphasis on partial equilibrium analysis. Pigou adopted this method, focusing on the labour market, while holding other economic variables constant, to simplify the analysis and isolate the key mechanisms driving unemployment. Marshall's consideration of time and economic processes also informed Pigou's framework, allowing him to examine both short-run and long-run effects of wage rigidities and policy interventions. The context of the Great Depression shaped the practical impetus for Pigou's The Theory of Unemployment. The perceived shortcomings of laissez-faire policies in addressing the economic crisis prompted Pigou to seek explanations and solutions within the classical framework. The intellectual landscape of the time witnessed widespread belief in self-correcting markets, thus motivating Pigou to clarify why this paradigm seemingly failed during the 1930s. Pigou assumed markets normally self-correct, driven by flexible prices and wages. This contrasts starkly with the prolonged economic stagnation of the era. For instance, the prevailing classical view assumed that a decrease in wages would stimulate demand. Pigou attempted to reconcile this view with the empirical evidence of persistent unemployment. While Pigou's precise policy recommendations concerning wage subsidies remain subject to debate, his work constitutes a substantial contribution to the evolution of macroeconomic thought. A central, enduring legacy lies in its illumination of the unemployment causes and the legitimate role of government within the labour market. The theory of unemployment provided a foundational basis for subsequent neoclassical synthesis models. These later models sought to reconcile Keynesian insights with the established classical framework, thereby enriching the understanding of macroeconomics. Pigou's definition of voluntary unemployment, while theoretically grounded, faced criticism. The assumption that all unemployed individuals are actively choosing unemployment over available jobs faced challenges. Moreover, the concept of wage rigidity as the sole cause of unemployment received scrutiny. Pigou's clear articulation of the classical perspective on unemployment provided a necessary counterpoint. Later economists would integrate insights from both traditions. leading to a richer and more nuanced understanding of macroeconomic phenomena. The influence of Pigou's work extends beyond its immediate context. It continues to inform contemporary discussions about the causes and consequences of unemployment. Discussions also include the suitability of differing interventions into the labour market. This ongoing relevance confirms the enduring significance of the theory of unemployment as a crucial text in the history of economic thought. Keynes' General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, published in the same year as Pigou's theory of unemployment, delivered a forceful rejoinder. This divergence, more than a mere disagreement, represented a fundamental shift in macroeconomic thought. Keynes directly challenged Pigou's core assumptions, particularly the self-correcting nature of labour markets and the primacy of wage flexibility. Keynes argued that Pigou's framework, rooted in classical economic principles, failed to adequately account for the crucial role of aggregate demand in determining employment levels. At the heart of Keynes' critique lay the concept of involuntary unemployment. Pigou largely attributed unemployment to voluntary choices, individuals opting out of employment due to prevailing wage rates. Keynes countered that substantial unemployment could occur irrespective of individual preferences. This would result from insufficient aggregate demand within the economy. Furthermore, Keynes disputed the notion that wage reductions would automatically restore full employment. He posited that lower wages could depress aggregate demand, thereby exacerbating unemployment. This formed a stark contrast to Pigou's belief in the self-regulating capacity of the labour market. Keynes introduced the multiplier effect, a concept absent from Pigou's analysis. The multiplier effect suggests that an initial injection of spending into the economy generates a multiple expansion of income and output. This contradicts Pigou's framework, which viewed government intervention with skepticism. Keynes advocated for active fiscal policy, particularly government spending, to stimulate aggregate demand and alleviate unemployment. A specific illustration of this divergence centered on the role of savings. In Pigou's classical understanding, savings automatically translated into investment, ensuring full utilization of resources. Keynes argued that savings could exceed investment, leading to a deficiency in aggregate demand and a contraction of economic activity. This highlighted a fundamental difference in their perspectives on the dynamics of financial markets and their impact on the real economy. Consider the impact of the Great Depression, a period of unprecedented economic hardship. Pigou's framework struggled to explain the persistence of high unemployment rates, attributing it primarily to wage rigidities and market imperfections. Keynes, observing the same phenomenon, saw a systemic failure of aggregate demand. He advocated for government intervention to restore full employment, a perspective that resonated deeply with policymakers grappling with the crisis. Keynes' critique extended beyond theoretical disagreements. It challenged the policy implications of Pigou's work. While Pigou favoured policy promoting wage flexibility and minimising government intervention, Keynes called for active government involvement. He specifically called to manage aggregate demand and stabilise the economy. The subsequent widespread adoption of Keynesian policies, particularly during the post-war era, demonstrated the profound influence of his idea. The Pigou-Keynes debate triggered a wave of intellectual ferment. Subsequent economists endeavoured to synthesize aspects of both perspectives. The neoclassical synthesis, dominant during the mid-20th century, sought to integrate Keynesian insights into a classical framework. However, disagreements persisted regarding the effectiveness of fiscal policy and the stability of market economies. One notable example is the development of the IS-LM model. This model attempted to capture the interaction between the goods market and the money market. It provided a framework for analysing the effects of fiscal and monetary policy. The model, heavily influenced by Keynesian ideas, became a standard tool in macroeconomic analysis. Despite the evolution of macroeconomic thought, the core issues raised by Pigou and Keynes remain relevant. Contemporary debates about fiscal stimulus, monetary policy, and the role of government in the economy echo the fundamental disagreements. This is between classical and Keynesian perspectives. The enduring legacy of the theory of unemployment lies in its contribution to this ongoing dialogue. It laid the groundwork for understanding the complexities of the labour market. The theory of unemployment remains a valuable text for understanding the pre-Keynesian perspective on unemployment. It provides a clear and rigorous presentation of classical economic principles. Its enduring influence can be seen in contemporary debates about the causes of unemployment and the appropriate policy. The dialogue between Pigou and Keynes enriches the current understanding of macroeconomics. Pigou's focus on wage rigidities versus Keynes' emphasis on aggregate demand offer complementary insights. These insights are regarding the complexities of unemployment. The debate continues to resonate, informing contemporary economic policy decisions. This solidifies the theory of unemployment as a pivotal work in the history of economic thought.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.